It's the George Plaster Show. 30 years of the best sports talk in Middle Tennessee. Featuring Tennessee Sports Hall of Famer Watson Brown. And it's a shame it's taken this long to get an introduction for this Tennessee Sports Hall of Famer, Kelly Holcomb, along with young gun Billy Derrick. And now, here's your host, George Plaster.
Hello again, everybody. Welcome in. I would love to call it a beautiful Wednesday, and when I look outside from our digs here at the Ford Ice Center, it looks fine right now. However, the weather people are really hitting the alarm bells. We, as in Nashville, Tennessee, the mid-state area, are under, and I don't want to try to define this because I don't totally know, but we are a 5 on the Torcon, which means they think it's 50-50 that some level of tornado activity could hit in our area. So, look, all kidding aside about me playing weatherman, early tonight, going past midnight, keep up with what's going on because it could really get hairy.
Stay safe out there.
Yeah. Let's go to Murfreesboro. Say hello to Kelly Holcomb. Kelly, I can remember a couple of tornadoes that have touched down there. And as you and I talked about yesterday, it's all fun and games when it's somewhere else. But when it hits near you, you know it.
Scary stuff, man. Last year they had that one out in Woodbury, going towards Woodbury in Murfreesboro. So it's it's scary times, man. In the springtime, you're always going to get storms, you know that. And you just hope, everybody stays safe and alert and stay up with Danielle Breezy or Channel 4 or whoever you watch, and just be diligent about that. And when they tell you to get, go somewhere because it's, the technology and meteorology. I don't even know how to say that anymore, but
it's saved lives. What it's done.
Absolutely. It's saved lives, man. It saves a bunch of lives. Just like that city out in Oklahoma, man, they with all the warnings and the things that were going off, they saved a bunch of lives doing that. So that's what technology has helped with, and just be vigilant.
You've made a great point, because I've seen the film footage and some of the interviews from that city. It starts with a B, and I don't remember. I keep wanting to say Bardstown, but that's up in Kentucky.
Yes.
Anyway, the city starts with a B in Oklahoma, and it has been absolutely leveled. And yet, because of the warnings, there were no fatalities, and that's what all this equipment has done.
That's right.
It's given enough of a heads up that people can, in theory, find that safe place.
Yeah, Barnsdall, Oklahoma.
Thank you.
Is the name. Yeah, there's some of these pictures and videos are crazy. Just homes getting flattened.
Sad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But today on the Weather Channel, there's a very likely risk of severe weather today. Look out for damaging winds, large hail, and powerful tornadoes.
They've sort of thrown out, Billy, 2 different times, one of them being during the day, but then one right around midnight. And that's really scary because you can't see anything.
Right.
That's right.
Yeah. For people like Kelly that go to bed early.
I remember sitting on my front porch when you talk about one of these outbreaks, man, watching. We were keeping up with it, but I was sitting on the front porch because I always like to watch storms. My wife's downstairs in the basement, and she's like, she came up here last year. I was just watching the TV, and I was like, honey, it's going south of us. And she was like, will you please just come downstairs? Please just come downstairs. But I remember years ago watching the tornado. You could see it going in the Blackman area, that one that they had, in Rutherford County. And man, it's scary. And if that thing's just like some of these meteorologists talk about, if that thing's rain wrapped, you can't see it. It's crazy.
Yeah. But when you can see it, it makes it real quick.
So, I've always wondered, what is it the storm chasers get out of this? I mean, is it just the high of
absolutely?
Yeah, because I mean, they're risking.
They are, absolutely. I would not want to do that. like I said, if any kind of tornado, I don't care if it's an EF0 or an EF5. I mean, if it hits you directly, you're in trouble. In trouble.
Yeah. It's got to be just I don't know. I mean, I say exhilaration. It's not like a roller coaster ride where, some people enjoy those, but maybe they do. They're in the fire. They just, they love it. So there's got to be part of, and then spreading the word, getting it out to people. Maybe they know that they saved a life or two or made somebody stay healthy, or stay safe. So.
Wow. I don't totally get it.
Me neither. I would not be in that business. But I am in the sports talk business.
Right. Yes, barely. So that was a really good line. It was a little cold, but it was pretty funny. So do you have an update worthy of our show?
I do. Did y'all watch any of the basketball last night? Before you answer that, though,
Is the Pope Catholic?
Yeah. Before you answer that, this update is brought to you by Lori Burnett Leland with USA Mortgage. You can find her online at mortgageladyyusa.com.
And I'm not sure what's going on with the interest rates. We thought they were getting better. I thought
they were going down.
I don't know.
Anyway, the NBA playoffs roll on. The Celtics handled the Cavs last night, 120-95.
Blowout.
Jaylen Brown, 32 points. Mitchell had a good game, but didn't get enough for anybody else. And
he looked exhausted.
Yeah.
At the end of the third quarter, I was like, somebody give him some help. Where is where do we think the local guy is in this? Because I don't think he's been as good as he's got to be for them to have a chance.
No.
Darius Garland.
Yeah.
That's who I'm talking about.
Yeah, he only had 14 last night. I think he's lost a little bit of confidence.
He needs to find it like by tomorrow night.
Yeah, there was a video the Cavs Twitter put out, and it was Mitchell just kind of wrapping his arm around Garland saying, "Hey, we believe in you.
I saw it.
Believe in yourself." So he's going to have to turn it on, and he's still a young player, but I think he's feeling some pressure because he's that other guard that it has to. You need at least 20 from him basically every night if the Cavs want to win, because they don't have a Luka Doncic, right beside Mitchell.
There are a lot of rumors about Paul George, and Paul George would fit in beautifully in Cleveland,
Mm-hmm.
it seems to me, because they need another scoring threat. They're not going to win this series against the Celtics.
No.
Now, if I end up wrong, burn the tape, but I don't think so.
I don't either. I don't think they have a shot with the Celtics are the best team in the East. I mean, I just don't think they have a shot.
And we're starting to learn who the best team in the West is.
The Thunder.
No. I'll say this. The Thunder's a really compelling story, and I love their fan base.
I like that Thunder club a lot. I mean, they're young. They're kind of like the Cavs, where they're going to be good down the road. And how good can they be right now?
They got more pieces.
Yeah, they do have more pieces. I like Holmgren a lot. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander had 29 last night, and they beat the Mavericks 117-95.
Isn't the Holmgren kid? Didn't he go? Doesn't he have a twin? Does he have a twin or a brother?
I think the twin is Kareem Jabbar, because he blocks everything in sight.
He does.
This
man.
guy's got great.
What is he? 7 foot? Is he 7 foot?
Chet Holmgren is 7'1". Yeah.
He has got great timing.
He does.
He's athletic. He can really move. He moves like a guard almost.
There's a God-gifted talent about his shot blocking.
Yeah.
Because he's not the first person that was ever 7'1". Some 7'1s play like they're 6'5", and then some 7'1s like this guy act like they're 8 feet tall.
Yeah,
he's 7'1", 190.
Yeah.
He's a beanpole.
He was on that Gonzaga team with Drew Timme in that front court, and
That's right.
Holmgren, he was good in college. He wasn't this good.
No,
I mean he's stepping into his own in the NBA, and he's on a really good team too. So Thunder
with a great fan base.
Yes, and they deserve this. I mean they've had some down years here the last 5-6 years.
It's not Madison Square Garden, but it's Predator playoff like is what they are. When they start that OKC chant, it's pretty cool.
Luka Duka only had 19 points.
Luka Duka's hurting.
Sprained right knee.
Yeah, and last night's the first time that I could really see, okay, this is hindering him. The other thing, Luka Doncic body language will tell you some things.
Mm-hmm.
When he's upbeat, he's smiling, he's laughing. Last night, he was pissed.
Yeah. Yeah, he said after the game, he said, you just got to move on to the next one. I got to be better. We got to be better. We got to focus. That's a great team. They're a great defensive team.
He and Kyrie have probably got to load up about 55 to 60 points if they're going to win at OKC.
Mm-hmm. And that's what I said when we were talking about these games here. I mean, you got to do it for 4 games. You got to win 4. And
it's tough.
Yeah, it's a lot. Also, the Timberwolves.
Were we supposed to be able to read that?
Yeah, Billy, can you I'm getting older. Okay, George already got glasses. I refuse to put glasses on. Can we make that a little bigger, Hoss?
Yeah, I'll do it, Hoss.
I mean, good gracious,
what
are we doing? What are we getting? What are you paying him for, George?
There it is.
Oh my God! It took
about 6 minutes.
Looked like it took 11 minutes. Actually,
I mean, that looked like George's writing, man.
Yeah, George's
writing
minuscule.
is impeccable.
But why is it so small?
I don't know. Don't worry about it.
Right?
The hell do you care?
Write a little bit bigger. All right.
Don't try to deflect your faults here. Your broadcast sins that your daddy over here called you out on.
No, not my daddy.
Big
brother? I'd have
whipped
your rear. If I was your daddy, I'd have whipped your rear end. You wouldn't have had one when you was little.
I'd like to meet your son and ask him about his childhood.
You think he's got some stories?
Good Lord.
Joining us. We do it on a Friday when Kelly isn't there. Joining us is Jameson. Jameson, what would you like to tell the audience about your father?
How did you survive?
It would be good stuff. It would be good stuff.
Probably be something like, you haven't got that much time.
As I was going to say, the Timberwolves' Rudy Gobert has been named NBA Defensive Player of the Year, to no surprise. But he's not even on the court right now for the Timberwolves, and they'll be back in action tomorrow. I thought it was actually tonight. They'll be back in action. Wait,
I think it's Friday.
What?
Yeah, they've got a big gap. This is all for the NBA to get their TV schedule right for the weekend, because that's where they try to aim all of it.
Yeah, that's right. Okay, so Friday night, the T-Wolves have 3 days off before their next game. And
Denver might need those 3 days off. There's some real soul searching.
Yeah,
having to go on there.
A lot. And tonight, Pacers Knicks at 7:00. The return of Reggie Miller to the Garden.
I love it.
I'll be watching that.
I'll be watching that.
All right, NHL. Rangers at great games last night. You had a double OT game. Rangers beat the Canes in double OT 4-3. And then the Avs beat the Stars in overtime in Dallas 4-3.
Dallas took the gas.
They did. They were up
3-0. Gagged it.
Yeah, I couldn't believe they lost that.
My buddy Ryan Suter scored the first goal of the game.
I was wondering if he was still in the league.
Oh, he's absolutely in the league.
Good for him.
Has done very well in Dallas. Happy for him.
Good for him. Well, obviously the Preds are out, but there was some stuff revealed yesterday at their media availability, which was at 4:00 right after we got off. Philip Forsberg revealed the injury that held him out of practice in about, mid-February. He stopped practicing with the team in mid-February, but the injury was, as I thought I had it here.
Well, he basically said, because I was there for it, he said that when he would put the boot on, the hockey thing, that it was like somebody stuck a knife in his foot.
Yeah, it was
that would be fun.
It was a bone bruise that cut my leg on my ankle. It made it kind of hard to put on skates. The second you put your foot in the boot, it was like somebody was putting a knife right back to that wound. It Oof.
So
And
I met Luke Evangelista yesterday.
Oh, really?
And I said, anybody else told you hairdo looks like Dansby Swanson? And he goes, he goes, one other person has said that to me. And so it turns out Luke Evangelista, big baseball fan, grew up in Toronto, obviously Blue Jays.
Okay.
Then I said, oh, no. I said, we got more of Shea Weber. Shea, when he was here, was a huge Blue Jays fan and a huge baseball fan.
Usually it goes both ways with hockey. Like, you got baseball guys that'll like hockey and then hockey guys that'll like baseball because a lot of them played.
Yeah.
Because it translates. So, also, Barry Trotz will apparently work on an extension for UC Soros this offseason.
Yeah.
Good or bad, George? Good or bad?
What?
You think it's is that a good or bad thing?
Listen, I think it's whichever one you decide, go to the max with it.
Right.
And I don't know quite what I mean by that because I don't know what this does with the Russian kid. UC made it clear yesterday, because I heard him say it, that he'd like to be here. This is a tough position for him. And number one, I admire not only his skill level, but his willingness to talk about it. And I also admire Barry Trotz's willingness to talk about it.
Yeah, I mean, they said they're going to work hard this offseason on a contract for Soros. So, I mean, is that
what does that mean, George? Like, I mean, they got the Russian kid waiting in Milwaukee who they think is really good. I mean, could you bring him up and do you trade him? I mean,
I don't know. To be real honest, I don't know what kind of market value he's got because he's never really shown it on the NHL level. I know exactly what UC's market value is. He could bring a haul.
Yep.
Right.
And Kevin Lankinen is the other question. I don't think he'll be on the team next year.
And yet I heard him yesterday say he'd love to be back here.
Yeah.
Who knows? He had a really good year in a tough position where you play once every couple of weeks, and he did great.
Lankinen's older than Askarov, of course, right?
Oh, yeah, way older.
So ideally, you'd probably like to have Askarov sort of groomed under Soros.
I don't know. I mean, I don't know if it's, look, you got to play the prospect and find out.
Because hockey's different, at least I've heard, as opposed to football, where you might draft a quarterback and have him sit behind your starter for 2-3 years. I don't know if they do that.
Soon we will get Barry on to ask all this. How about that?
Soon and very soon. So that's all I got. There was a NIL event in college basketball that I wanted to get to. Maybe we'll get into that a little bit later. It's pretty cool.
Okay. After the break, plaster intern extraordinaire, Battleground Academy graduate Butch Samide will join us. Here's why I'm having him on. I believe the next wave of this wacko, expanding conferences and, so-and-so's jumping from this conference to this. To me, the next domino that's going to fall is, where is Florida State? Where is this lawsuit with the ACC? Where does Clemson fit into this? We'll talk with Butch and find out what's been going on in Tallahassee, because whatever is happening, ultimately, I think is the next, I don't know what you call it, not stumbling block and maybe not building. Wave.
The next wave.
Good word. Okay, you got it? We're back in about 3 minutes.
It was the most horrible experience that any mother could ever go through. I knew that I needed to get help. My friend, she immediately said, you need to call Bart Durham. And you guys were there within an hour. You guys are like family for us.
Yeah, sure is nice to connect with the people that you're doing your best to help.
As the trusted premier custom home builder in Middle Tennessee, Donnelly Timmons has over 20 years of experience in the industry. Whether you're looking to build your dream home or renovate your current home, their team will ensure that every client and every remodel is unique, luxurious, and completed on time within budget. Founders Dustin Timmons and Joey Donnelly have over 25 years of construction experience in the Nashville area. Together, they have completed projects in Forest Hills, Oak Hill, Green Hills, Franklin, and Brentwood. Dustin and Joey believe that communication is the most important aspect of all construction projects. Therefore, they personally manage each project themselves and are involved in job site activities on a daily basis. Their commitment to quality and integrity has earned them an outstanding reputation among their clients. Contact them to set an appointment for a free consultation or to view some of their completed projects. Give them a call at 615-456-7983 or log on to DonnellyTimmons.com.
As some of you may already know, we're making some changes in our programming. Simply put, beginning Monday, May the 21st, and yes, that date did have to change, we will go into a 4 to 6 p.m. time slot to do this podcast, but we will also simulcast it on radio on 95.9 FM. And for those of you who watch in the Rutherford, Williamson County area, on 107.9 as well. The purpose of this is very simple. I want to be able to take phone calls. While I've enjoyed the podcast format, I have greatly missed the fact that I'm not able to talk to you all. And I don't feel like I have quite the pulse that I used to for that reason. If you go back through my 30 years as a broadcaster, I always enjoyed taking phone calls. I'm looking forward to getting back to that. So mark the date, Monday, May the 21st, 4 to 6 p.m., and thanks for all the support. Looking for more than just awards and trophies? Southern Trophy House is your one-stop solution. For over 60 years, their team has created lasting impressions with a personalized touch. From embroidery to screen-printed apparel to corporate awards, signs, and name badges, they have everything you need to keep your brand shining bright. With their knowledgeable customer service team, you can relax as they create, produce, pack, and ship merchandise and awards on time and on budget. That includes etched crystal awards, custom-cut acrylic, name badges, embroidered Richardson ball caps, banners, screen-printed T-shirts, laser-engraved Yeti cups, and knives. Recognize your hard-working team from Southern Trophy House, where they do their best to help you recognize your best. Located at 2705 Nolensville Pike in Nashville, give them a holler, 615-256-7295. Visit southerntrophy.com. Southern Trophy House, for all your personalization and recognition needs. This is a story that I have wanted to get back into for the last couple of weeks. My gut feeling is that Florida State holds the key to whatever the next wave of expansion is. And don't get me wrong, I think it's all absurd, but it's the world we now live in where you got all this crazy conference stuff going on. So with that in mind, I take advantage of the fact that a former plaster intern, not only is a BGA graduate, but a student down in Tallahassee at Florida State University. Butch Samide, how are you?
I'm good, George. It's actually funny. I'm currently at the academy right now.
Really?
Yeah, I was invited by some of the new football coaches to come back and, kind of meet everybody, get a workout in. So, yeah, kind of all the worlds are colliding right now.
Have you met Bobby Bentley?
I have. Great guy.
Oh, everybody loves him. I didn't know this until a couple of weeks ago. His son, Jake Bentley, was a quarterback in South Carolina and a pretty darn good one. Then ended up transferring to Utah. I actually had Jake on the show, and I told his dad about it. But anyway, enough of that. Do you believe, like I do, that Florida State holds the key to the next wave of this stuff?
I do, and I also believe that the ACC is on pace to become the next Pac-12 or now Pac-2, where there's this sort of mass exodus that all occurs within about, a month. So you look at what the Pac-12 was before everyone jumped ship to the Big Ten, ACC, and Big 12. Really, it was the lowest earning conference that had the least viewers and the most upset programs. And once that first team jumped ship, everybody went to more money. And I think Florida State's going to be the same. If Florida State can win, in the courts and find a cheap way to get out of the ACC, I think you'll see almost all the remaining ACC teams, especially, Clemson, North Carolina, big, especially going to jump ship once Florida State is able, or if they are able, to successfully leave the ACC.
Butch, what is the situation right now as far as the legal stuff between Florida State and the ACC? And I ask that because when you are down there, you're right there hearing all of it. What is it?
So currently, bit of a lull. Judge Cooper, who is the judge in Tallahassee, he has made Florida State go back and amend one of the parts of their complaint. The ACC was kind of hammering it home because there was just some, ambiguous language. So he's making Florida State go back and amend that complaint. And really, right now, it's in the part where they're still trying to figure out where this case is going to be heard. The ACC is having motions to stay the court and to go back in North Carolina. Florida State obviously is trying to levy their way to have it in Florida because mainly in Florida, there's public records laws that are more open than North Carolina. So if the court was in Florida, then Florida State would be able to pull the media rights contract, which ESPN does not want out in the open, and neither does the ACC. So that's kind of the biggest part right now that we're still at. We're still figuring out, is this court going to be heard in Florida? Is this court going to be heard in North Carolina? And as a part of that, Judge Cooper has also recommended mediation. And I wouldn't be surprised if he demanded it, required it. But right now he's pushing for mediation between Florida State's Board of Trustees and the ACC, just because, at this point, we went 3-4 weeks and haven't really gotten anywhere in court.
Yeah.
It's just both sides, hammering whatever point they think that they have an advantage on. So I wouldn't be surprised. Really, I don't see this going to court because I just cannot imagine that this case went to court. I believe there's going to be a settlement at some point. When that's going to come, probably after it's decided whether or not it's going to be in Florida or in North Carolina. It's weird because there really shouldn't be a home court advantage in the courts, but I can promise you that a Tallahassee judge will not rule against Florida State football. So in the reality that we live in, it would be, I cannot imagine a Tallahassee judge ruling against the biggest business in Tallahassee besides the state of Florida's government.
He might then become a Macon, Georgia judge.
Yes. Yeah. So
Butch, let's stop there for a second. For people who don't really get into all the court stuff, Mediation essentially is where a mediator that both sides agree to gets the parties into some facility that has two different rooms where the parties stay away from each other. He walks into, let's just make up, Florida State and says, where are you willing to give in at all? And Florida State says, well, here's a couple of things. Then the mediator goes over to the other group and says, okay, what things are you willing to compromise on? Well, we're willing to blah, blah, blah. And then it's just a back and forth and back and forth. And the really good mediators at times get some things to happen that on the surface you're like, they hate each other. They're never gonna get anything done. So first of all, that's what mediation is all about. So Butch, let's go back to what is at stake here. There is this thing called the grant of rights that supposedly the ACC has gotten all its member institutions to agree to and sign through the year 2036. Florida State's one of those schools that signed it. How are they claiming that they have a right to get out of it?
So the main point, and there's many points, but I'll just focus on this one because it seems to be the biggest and the time spent the most writing about in their complaint. But if we look at the SEC, you know, they've done multiple times where they go back and renegotiate their media rights contract. They'll go back and, you know, they'll argue for more money, right? They'll keep getting more and more money for their conference. The ACC hasn't done that. And there's at least 2 documented times where ESPN approached the ACC to renegotiate and get more money for the conference. However, when the contract is being renegotiated, teams then have the option to leave while it's being negotiated. The ACC was afraid, did not go into those negotiation periods like the SEC did, like the Big Ten, like the Big 12 has done. They didn't do that. They chose not to. They chose to keep the schools in the conference and sacrifice potential financial gain. And Florida State's arguing that that is against the premise of that it's against the core values and purpose of the conference. That's not acting for the well-being of the member institutions, right? So that's kind of the main thing. And then it also gets into some exit fees, and they've called the fees to leave the conference draconian, and some other big words to basically say this is unfair and unjust. So really that's what they're more concerned of. I think the exit fee is what Florida State wants to change. The rest of it's them just kind of, you know, taking the ACC through the mud.
Okay, let me turn it to Kelly Holcomb because I don't want to totally hog this. Kelly, there's a lot of meat on the bone. Take it and run with it.
Butch, I know you kind of went out on us, and we didn't really hear what you said one time. But if FSU does end up winning all this, and they do end up leaving, who are the teams that are? We obviously know Clemson, but then after Clemson, who's heading the same way?
I would say after Florida State and Clemson, I would expect North Carolina. I would expect Notre Dame. I would expect Miami, kind of some of the bigger brands, right, that have value in multiple sports. And I think Notre Dame's the most interesting because the only part of their media rights that, or the only, you know, they're only in the ACC for non-football sports. But in the contract, the ACC owns Notre Dame's football grant of rights if they join a non-ACC conference for football. So basically, if Notre Dame goes to another conference for football, they can't make money off of that conference's media rights deal until the ACC contract expires, or if they leave. So, those are kind of the next few schools, and I wouldn't be surprised, honestly, if almost all schools leave and you end up like a Pac-2 where it's just Pitt and Syracuse playing against each other.
So you do think that'll probably happen? Like if those schools do leave, do you think that the NC States and the Dukes and all these other schools will do you not think you think it'll just go away like the Pac-12, like we just talked about, or do you think that they'll get together and say, hey, let's make our these teams left, let's don't cry over spilled milk, let's go out and let's try to keep this ACC thing going?
A part of me wants to believe that. And honestly, I've been fine in the ACC. I mean, you look at it for the past, besides the Taggart era, it's been Florida State and Clemson. And I'm fine with that. If it was the ACC championship, it was just the Florida State Clemson Bowl, I would be perfectly fine with that. And the basketball is competitive. It's been competitive for a long, long time. But you look at how long the contract is going into the 2030s, and you see how the ACC is just making the least amount of money by tens of millions of dollars. I can't imagine that if these schools, if especially like a Duke, NC State, teams that have been successful recently in football, basketball, baseball, softball, all these different sports, I would be shocked if given the chance to make an extra $10 million if they didn't take it.
Butch, how does that, like, I hear what you're saying, but like, how does that happen? Like, how is is it planning? Is it marketing? How is the ACC? Because the ACC, it seems like everything goes around football. This country seems like right now it goes around football, and that's what you're talking about. Like the ACC for years has been known as the basketball conference, and now the SEC was the SEC and the Big Ten have been football driven conferences. And now the SEC is getting better in basketball. They've got some really good coaches. Big Ten's always had good basketball. ACC has always been known for basketball, but it seems like this whole thing is driven by football. And I think this is where this is coming from. FSU is driven by football. Clemson's driven by football. But like, how do they get themselves in this kind of situation with having the lowest revenue in all this, in all this talk where people are talking about, rebranding and doing all this stuff where the Big Ten, the Pac-12 goes away. Most of those teams go to the Big Ten. Some of them go to the Big 12. But how does the ACC, you think of the ACC as kind of a juggernaut, but like, how does the Big 12 beat the ACC in marketing their brand around?
Well, ultimately, it comes down to the media rights contracts. And like I said earlier, the ACC never chose to renegotiate. And that puts you behind the eight ball in terms of, actually, continuing to make the top revenues with other conferences, and the way I like to look at it, once the SEC started renegotiating a couple times, in these last few years, I'm not surprised that they've also been pioneers in, furthering men's college basketball, women's college basketball. It seems like everyone in the SEC has a ranked baseball program, a ranked softball program. It's once these conferences allowed themselves to renegotiate, get more money for their schools. Obviously, a chunk went to football. A sizable chunk would go to each school's football programs. But, it's all sports benefit from extra $10 million. That's extra recruiting money for women's college basketball. And now you're getting fans to that. Now, you look at South Carolina right now. I mean, women's basketball is probably turning a profit, which is unheard of in the college landscape, in all of history, really. But I guarantee you, if you look through the University of South Carolina's budget and seen how much that they are investing into women's college basketball, or how much Alabama has invested into men's college basketball, or how much Tennessee is invested in softball, it blows ACC schools, probably some Big Ten schools, water, because of the amount of money they've been able to get through these renegotiation periods, through reworking the contract, even in part due to conference expansion and making the conference more valuable with valuable names, valuable brands and programs. So, I mean, the ACC, you look at it, they haven't really expanded much. You know, they added Pitt not too long ago, Louisville not too long ago. Those are, you know, decent brands, and I don't want to, you know, say anything bad about them. Those are good schools with pretty good athletic brands. But you look at the SEC, they bring in juggernauts of Oklahoma, Texas, the Big Ten, adding Washington, Oregon. And then you look at the ACC, and what do? Stanford, Cal, and SMU. That's just not pushing. It's not pushing the lever.
That's not moving the needle.
No, it's really not. So really, the ACC has come up short in almost every area that you can, in terms of renegotiating the contract, expanding the conference with valuable brands, putting the member institutions first and the conference second. And that just hasn't happened, and that's kind of why we're here asking ourselves, well, why is the ACC worth nothing anymore?
So my last question. What do you how do you think this is going to turn out? I mean, do you think it's going to be a Pac-12 where the whole conference just abolishes and goes away, or do you think, like, if these schools do leave, there'll be some semblance of the ACC still there?
I don't think it will be as sudden as the Pac-12, because Florida State's goal, in my opinion, is to get the exit fees in a state where they can argue up from zero instead of down from 500 whatever million dollars. If they can argue up from zero, I think Florida State will take out of the conference as quick as possible. And I think with Florida State will come some of the other money makers. I think you'll see Clemson do it. I think you'll see North Carolina do it. I wouldn't be surprised if Notre Dame did it, although they could hold back since they already have their own football deal. But I think you'll see those higher revenue programs exit first. And then I think you'll see kind of, you know, a waiting period. Obviously, Stanford and Cal and SMU just got there, right? So I don't think they're leaving. But I think that in a year or two after kind of the big schools leave, I think you're going to see North Carolina State. I think you're going to see Duke. I think you're going to see Miami, Virginia. I think you're going to see those teams start to leave as well after they kind of raise the money to match the exit fees of the former top schools. And where those schools end up, honestly, I have no clue, right? I mean, I think if they left tomorrow, Florida State would probably be in the Big Ten. But if this takes a year or two, who's to say that the SEC won't step in, right? But I think it's kind of the two waves where you're going to see the top schools leave, and then kind of those lower schools raise the money after a year and then also exit.
Butch, appreciate you coming on. I got a couple for you. How do you think Florida fans would feel about Florida State moving to the SEC?
Well,
or do you care?
I don't really care what Florida fans think, but I would say I don't think really anything changes from that perspective. I mean, for me personally, if you ask some new age Florida State fans, they might say our biggest rival is Miami or Clemson. For me, it's always been Florida. I think being in the SEC would just legitimize that rivalry as one of the top in the country. I would say it's fine. I mean, we play each other in every sport already. So I really don't think it would make that much of a difference. But yeah, I think really Miami fans would be mad because they don't, the only games they sell tickets for are Florida State games. So I don't know what they're going to do once their biggest ticket leaves. But yeah, I think Florida fans would be perfectly fine with it.
The other thing is, I look at Florida State, and they look like an SEC athletic department. They feel like, I mean, their baseball program is back rolling again. Basketball has traditionally been really good, and I want to go to that baseball aspect. You mentioned how the SEC overall is stronger and even getting better because these ADs have invested in baseball now as well. Link Jarrett coming over from Notre Dame. Has he? I mean, how has he rejuvenated that program? Because I mean, Florida State is up there with the top baseball programs in the country. And how good are they this year? Because I mean, we saw them beat Florida. What do you think their potential is this year?
Well, I think you'll see. I don't think they'll be at their frame until the ACC tournament, and that's because I think that their ace Cam Leiter will be back. Been playing recently without two of their three starting pitchers, which has definitely hurt. Connor Whitaker, our third best pitcher, should be back this weekend. That was the report that came during their Tuesday night game yesterday. So I expect Connor Whitaker to be back for this next series. And then Cam Leiter, I think, will be back for the ACC tournament. Obviously, Florida State's offense, if you look at any of the national rankings, I mean, it's ridiculously good. Similar strategy to what Link Jarrett did at Notre Dame. If you can recruit the hitting, you can piece together the pitching. And so once they get those two starting pitchers back, I think that gives you, a three-headed monster there that you can compete with top teams. But they have struggled recently, given that they only have really one good starting pitcher. So I think that they can compete with anyone. But when you play a high runs game in terms of letting up runs and then scoring runs yourself, that's dangerous. So I think the team goes far. I'm a big fan. I think this team has just been, ridiculous to watch at the plate. And then the pitching has been there for the most part this season. I mean, you look at how they've handled Florida, had a really good series against UNC, but then you also get the series like they played at Clemson where you give up like 7 runs in the 9th inning and then you end up losing and getting swept. So it's really been an up and down year. But I think that given the two starting pitchers coming back, I think that they can finish the season really strong.
Butch, give the Academy my best. I appreciate your coming on.
Perfect. I will, George. Thank you.
Butch Samide joining us not as a Florida State Tallahassee student, but as a BGA grad, I guess. We'll come back and talk about some of the stuff he threw out there and give you our opinions on this mess. Stay tuned.
For over 35 years, Wilson Bank & Trust has been committed to providing customized banking solutions to help individuals, families, and businesses in Tennessee achieve their goals. As your full-service community bank, we are proud to offer loans with competitive rates, local decision-making, and fast, friendly service from our experienced lenders. No matter where you are on your financial journey, Wilson Bank & Trust is ready to help you take the next step. Visit your nearest Wilson Bank & Trust office or online at wilsonbank.com to get started today. Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
Hit After Hit has become the baseball store in Tennessee. They have over 1,000 different models of gloves and over 1,500 wood bats. They also have several Iron Mike pitching machines as well as a Hit Tracks machine. If they don't have it, you probably don't need it. we're proud to call Hit After Hit the official shirt provider of the Plaster and Friends Celebrity Bowling Night.
Forget the fact that Sir Speedy Music City is owned by my BGA classmate James Warren. Their work stands on its own merit. James and his staff do incredible work, as evidenced by the huge banners at the Plaster and Friends Celebrity Bowling Night. If you're looking for quality to help your marketing and business communications, and you want it at a reasonable price, these are your folks. Call them at 615-832-9511 or go to print at sirspeedymusiccity.com. And be sure to tell them Plaz sent you.
Over the years, more men have started to seek help for hormone deficiencies and imbalances, and Dr. Jeffrey Lodge and wife Daphne, along with their experienced staff, give men the treatment required to improve their quality of life, improve your immune system, energy level, cognitive function, and more. There's no better time to achieve a healthy lifestyle. What are you waiting for? Give Cool Springs MD a call today for an appointment at 615-486-3458 or visit the website coolspringsmd.com.
Convenience and value, two words that we expect when we do business. Our goal at JHA Company is to deliver just that, both to our school partners and to our customers. Whether you're purchasing photos, yearbooks, class jewelry, letter jackets, school spirit wear, or senior graduation products, we strive to make the experience easy, convenient, and cost-effective. Find out more at jhacompany.com or call 615-867-6345 for more information. JHA, one source, one company.
Nashville, get ready for the greatest show on turf. Electrifying, high-octane, non-stop spring football action. Starting at only $30. Don't miss the season opener this April 27th at Municipal Auditorium.
Hi, I'm Jeff Fisher. The Nashville Cats are bringing arena football back to Nashville.
Grab your tickets now at thenashvillecats.com and be part of the action.
Okay, we're going to play a tad bit of true or false here. I'm going to throw something out, and y'all tell me if it's true or false.
Let's go.
Most people who follow college athletics, most athletic administrators who work on the NCAA Division I level would like a do-over and bring it back to the old ways, not all this conference crap, this realignment. Is that statement true or false?
True.
You say it's true.
Correct.
I want to say true, but I don't know if Greg Sankey would play it all over because he made a lot more money.
Well, he's the beneficiary of a lot of this stuff,
Exactly.
so he's probably not. And
He's
so Kevin Warren, the same thing with the Big Ten. I mean, they're the beneficiaries of all this stuff, so they're getting richer. So they probably wouldn't.
Yeah, I want to say true, like I said, but those two guys, Kevin Warren and Greg Sankey, I don't know if they'd want to do over, but certainly the ACC and the Pac-12 commissioners.
So I guess I'm asking the question, why do you really not hear anybody in the college world have the, quote, intestinal fortitude to shout to the rooftop and say, what the hell are we doing?
Because the cat's out of the bag already with this NIL, the transfer portal, with the new realignment. Like there's nothing you can do. And talking with Coach Donnelly one day, I didn't realize either. Like, I think they put it on the government, and they thought that the government was going to shoot it down, and the government did not shoot it down. So then they had no plan to roll out this NIL stuff or this transfer portal stuff. They had to do it on the fly. They had no organization to it whatsoever. They had no organization to the realignment stuff. The cat's out of the bag now, and they can't go back. And nobody's going to go against the grain. It's group thinking, man. Like once you're clustered into a group, one person's scared to stand up and say anything. It's nobody has the intestinal fortitude to do that, George.
Toothpaste is out of the tube, and you've seen coaches that maybe at first thought, I don't want to get too deep into the portal, NIL, things like that. But then now you have coaches, whether a year later or 2 years later, that have completely just said, all right, I don't want to do this, but we have to if we want to survive. I mean, if I want to keep my job, I better wake up and smell the roses and what's actually happening. Clark Lee is a good example at Vanderbilt. They have started to dive into the portal and use their NIL and build those relationships in the community, as opposed to 2 years ago. They were a developmental program that's how they wanted to build. And even Lane Kiffin, he said he doesn't like it, but you have to do it.
He loves it.
Yeah, he's probably lying when he says he doesn't like it, but
yes.
It's coaches like that. I mean, if you're not kind of that Lane Kiffin mindset, good luck, especially in the SEC.
I think that's why I asked Tony Basilio yesterday about Tony Vitello, because he just seems like the ultimate NIL transfer guy that he's gone about it full speed ahead, and like, this is just a little roadblock, and I'm gonna use it to my advantage. And he's gone out and he's got the number one team in the country. Just look at them.
Okay, let's do one more true or false. In the SEC, the travel for the most part is fairly easy. But now it's a totally different deal in the Big Ten. Thus the question, 2 years from now, will the schools be saying, what the hell are we doing?
True. Especially the Rutgers of the world. You know what I'm saying? The Rutgers. Like Rutgers, like why are we going to LA to play a volleyball game? Like, they've got to be losing money. You look at the smaller school, like even some of the big schools, like Ohio State, probably not. They probably don't care. I don't know if Penn State would care. But you look at Iowa, like they're going to lose money. Like I think they'll be saying, like, why are we doing this?
But they know. I mean, this is what they agreed to. I mean, does a school like Rutgers, for example, have control over who comes into their conference?
No.
So they couldn't. Because what I was trying to get at is, well, maybe they could have done their best to try to keep them out. Or if they don't like this, maybe they can leave.
If you put a pile of money over here and say, George, here's X amount of dollars, and man, it looks pretty good. It looks more than my paycheck, which is not saying much. But then I don't know what it is I have to do to get that money.
Yeah.
That's how it feels like it happened. Boom, we're in.
Yeah.
By the way, are you aware your volleyball team's going to travel to, Palo Alto or Eugene, Oregon for that big tilt that'll draw, about 180 people? I mean, I don't know that they thought all this through, and I do wonder if a couple of years from now, some people start spouting off going, how damn dumb were we?
It's for the kids, though, guys. It's for the kids.
It's for the kids.
Well,
it is.
It just means more. Yeah. It just means more, and it's for the kids.
Yeah. Kelly, I'm glad we got that settled. After the break, we'll have stat of the day. Kelly, if it doesn't look like you and I know how to answer it, we'll just dump it in Jeff Hemm's lap, because he will join us live from Durham, North Carolina at a ballpark near you. How about that?
Nice.
Yeah. Stay tuned.
Nashville Sounds Baseball is back in Hit City for the 2024 season. Spend your nights and weekends at the ballpark with weekly giveaways, fireworks shows, throwback deals, live music, and more. Top talent will take the field at First Horizon Park against the AAA Minnesota Twins, Baltimore Orioles, Atlanta Braves, St. Louis Cardinals, Cincinnati Reds, and more. Tickets start at just $10 and are available now at NashvilleSounds.com. We will see you in Hit City.
Star Physical Therapy was established in 1997 with one great mission: to serve. If you're hurting, don't wait to receive physical therapy. You don't need a referral to see their physical therapist, and early morning and evening appointments are available. Make the call to 615-673-1420 and get rid of that pain. Star Physical Therapy, the official health provider of Football Friday.
You were in a crash.
Yeah.
Your kids were in the car with you.
We're very lucky to even be telling this story to you. Nikki treated us like family, and she was very caring and loving, and I'm just so grateful for that. She was somebody I could trust, and being a veteran, that's so important to me. My kids are going to have a better life now because I don't have to worry about those expenses that we were out. Your family has really created a legacy of trust, and I would recommend you to anyone.
Venture Express has been helping people in this area for more than 40 years. They're headquartered in Murfreesboro with over 30 years of dedicated fleets involving production, manufacturing, and corrugated experiences. They're an asset-based company with over 700 tractors, 4,000 trailers, and 800 drivers. If you need their help, dial them up 615-793-9500 or log on to ventureexpress.com.
You know, starting to save for your future doesn't have to be difficult. Let Wilson Bank and Trust help tone up your financial goals this year. Our certificates of deposits or CDs can help your money work harder with our competitive rates, earning you more than ever before. WBT checking options allow you to earn rewards you can really use, like a high interest rate or cash back on check card purchases when you meet some e-banking qualifications. Visit your closest Wilson Bank and Trust office or online at wilsonbank.com to get started today. Member FDIC.
Top of the hour on a Wednesday. We're talking with Jeff Him, voice of the Sounds, coming up. But first stat of the day brought to you by John English Antique Sports and Cards in Shelbyville. They're open during the week, Tuesday through Friday, noon to 5, and Saturdays from 10 a.m. to 5. Give them a call. 931-492-4304. All right, here we are. We're going a little NBA. As I talked about in the update, Rudy Gobert won his 4th Defensive Player of the Year award, tying him with 2 other players for the most in NBA history. Name one of those players, or both, if you want to flex that knowledge.
Okay. Kelly, in truth, Michael Jordan was a great defensive player, and I believe so was Scottie Pippen.
Yeah, those are. I was actually thinking. Of course, he was a rebounding phenom, but I was actually thinking Dennis Rodman when he had defensive.
That was the third one I had in mind.
And then I forget the younger guy that I don't know if he's still playing. He may be still playing, but there's a guy that and I forget his name. I don't even know. He got the beard. He gets under people's nerve. I can't even think of his name. Don't even know who it is.
Gets under people's nerves. Let's go ahead and go to Durham, North Carolina, and dump this in Jeff Him's lap. Jeff not only is a fine broadcaster, but is this show's 2024 Minor League Broadcaster of the Year. That and a dime
nice
will get you a really crappy cup of coffee. How you doing?
I'm doing great, guys. How are you?
Okay, we need an answer.
Well, Scottie Pippen was the one that came into my mind first. I'm wondering if Kelly thinking of James Harden.
No, it wasn't James Harden. No.
Okay,
no,
he's got a beard and he drives people crazy. So I thought that was maybe your answer. It's
not because defensively.
my first thought outside of Scottie Pippen was the glove, Gary Payton for the Sonics.
That's a
Gary
very
Payton's a good one. Absolutely. That's a good one.
Would Rudy Gobert get in there?
That's the question.
That's the question, George.
Yes, he would, George. He would get in there, actually.
Yeah, he is in the question, George. So wait, Captain Obvious.
Oh, God. Oh, duh. I just figured it out. I'm sorry. That's awful.
Good
okay.
gracious, George.
Lighten up there, Hoss. Let's put the answer up there and see if we were even in the ballpark.
Not really.
Oh, Lord.
Ben Wallace.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
Ben Wallace.
Wallace.
Not Rudy Gobert.
So it was
we could have stayed here all. Yeah, we could have stayed here all day, Jeff, and not got that one. See, that's the kind of stuff we're up against every day.
Well, we were going. I was submitting a guard, and George was mentioning guards. You were the closest thinking of Rodman. There's two big men on that screen right now.
Wow, you're
That's
right.
crazy.
We could have been here till midnight. Billy put me back on in honor of Dikembe. Yeah. Oh, that's right. That's what he did. Yeah.
Yeah.
So Jeff Him is the world traveler. The Sounds are in the middle of a 2-week, 12-game road trip. Now, most of the time on the major league level, they don't go past 9 normally, maybe 10, but certainly not 2 weeks straight. So how tough is this?
Well, it's toughest if you don't feel like you have enough clothing to last 2 weeks on the road. We only have one of these this year. I think last year we had 2. It's kind of an indirect byproduct of the post-COVID of 2021 schedule, where they started these 6-game series, which everybody loves for multiple reasons. I think it's good for fans. I think it's good for the pitching rotations to get set up kind of on a weekly schedule. I know the parent clubs, and talking to folks with the Brewers, they love the 6-game series for all their affiliates because they can use that Monday off day to kind of plan, all right, here's what our week looks like around the farm system. In the past with us, we'd have a 3-game series or a 4-game series, and you'd have a homestand starting on a Wednesday or maybe a Saturday or Friday. There was no rhyme or reason to the schedule. So the 6-game series, I think, is overall a very good thing. But because you're trying to play 6-game series, you get in these situations where somebody occasionally has to be on the road for 2 weeks. So any 2-week road trip is going to be a challenge. The Sounds have had their problems here in Durham over the years. Got a nice extra inning win yesterday to open the series, and then next week is in Jacksonville. So two places that are particularly challenging to try to win many games at, and then you factor in that you're going back-to-back. So it's not going to be an easy trip. It all balances out. The Sounds have a 2-week homestand coming up later in the year. And like I said, they're at the most, teams have 2 of these. This year, the Sounds only have 1. It's just the way the schedule falls. And I think the positives of the 6-game series still outweigh the occasional drawback of having a 12-game road trip, because at least with a 12-gamer, you're still only getting on the bus or the plane, that 1 or 2 times. If this were a 12-game road trip with 3 different 4-game series or 4 different 3-game series, like what the big league comp would be, it'd be a lot more challenging. I think at least the guys still in a 6-game series can kind of settle in to where they are and get in that routine and not feel like 48 hours you're getting back on a bus or a plane.
I would have guessed, I didn't know quite where we were going with that. You gave a great answer. But I would have thought a starting pitcher would say, hey, I started game 1 of this series, and I'm having to start game 5 or 6, and that's too quick for them to see me again.
Well, I think so. I hear you, and I think the devil's advocate / development response would be, hey, it does happen in the big leagues sometimes where you turn right around and face a team. And I think there's value in, pitching again on Sunday. And yeah, they know the cards that are in your hand from Tuesday. They just saw you. They saw that slider. They saw that cutter, whatever it is. who's going to make what adjustment. I think there's value in that. I think Rick Sweet would tell you the only occasional drawback of a 6-game series is if you get some bad blood between a couple of teams on, say, the Tuesday or Wednesday, or any umpiring confrontations, and then all of a sudden you've got 4 or 5 more games with that team or with that umpire. But from a pitching standpoint, I think that presents an interesting wrinkle. And the counterpoint to that would be, if you have a 5-man rotation and you cycle through that over time, it's every other month roughly that you might be the Tuesday, Sunday guy. So most of the time in a season, that's not going to be, you're still going to make the 1 start per week. And then every now and then you might do the Tuesday, Sunday. And at least at AAA, the roster changes so often. I don't know, we're about 5 series into this year. I don't know that we've had the same guy start the Sunday game that started the Tuesday game more than a time or two. So the roster churning at AAA takes care of that being a really significant drawback anyway. So yeah, it's a wrinkle of it, but I think even that wrinkle presents a developmental benefit for a pitcher to turn right around, or a hitter to turn right around and try to be productive against a guy they just saw.
Okay, I want to pick your brain on this because Milwaukee, as expected, reinstated Christian Yelich, who, when he's right, is a terrific hitter. And Tyler Black comes back down, and he knew deep down that it was going to be that way. When a player goes up, but he knows it's only going to be for a short time, what do they end up telling you afterwards about what the experience was like?
Well, I think they, especially when they go up for that first time, I mean, they're just a kid in a candy store. That's the part of it that's really special. And most of the time, I think you're right. The player may have an inkling, I might be coming back here in a couple days, or this is probably only going to be a week. Things happen, and it ends up being somebody else, or somebody else gets hurt, and all of a sudden that player's got to go on the IL, and you stay up another week or two. So I think the player's mindset is go up, play as well as I can, make it hard for them to send me back if they're going to send me back, or play my way onto staying on this roster, so find a way. And sometimes you're right. You're going to go back down. It's just not your time yet to get the extended look. And there's so much value in the player getting their feet wet up there and getting that debut kind of quote unquote out of the way. As great as the debut is, there's nerves that are going to be there for a player on that particular day that won't quite be the same any other day. So getting that kind of checked off the list, try to normalize being in the big leagues, there's value in that. And when Tyler went up, we didn't know down here. It wasn't like they said, he'll be back in a week. That was an unknown. You have a feeling that a guy might come back at some point, but you never know. So I think for Tyler, come back. Now he knows what was long the carrot being dangled of the big leagues. Now he's lived it and eaten it and smelled it and gotten to enjoy all the things that come with being a big leaguer. I would imagine the motivation is even greater now. You truly know what it's like up there, and it makes you want to get back even more. And Tyler Black works as hard as anybody I've ever seen with getting his swings in, working on his defense. So high confidence that he will get another chance at some point fairly soon, just because he's that good.
The other part I thought about is if a player is honest when they come back. Now, they may not tell the rest of the world, but in their own private moment, they can say to themselves, okay, here's where I am major league ready. And now that I've had 2 weeks to see, here's where I know I'm not quite there, if they're honest with themselves.
No doubt. And I think we've talked about this in the past. What I give organizations credit for is being honest as much as they can with the player. And sometimes it's just, hey, you're the odd man out. You're going to go down, especially like relief pitchers where there's constant fluctuation. Hey, just go down, keep getting your outings in. We think you'll be back. Those kind of conversations can happen. When it's a position player, it can be a little bit different, but you're right. They and the player will share with each other, hey, here's how this went. Here's what worked well. Keep working on this. Try to find time to work on that. The AAA staff is in constant communication down here with the big league staff, so they talk all the time. to know exactly what those conversations were like up there so that when the player comes back, they can get to work. And 9 times out of 10, whenever I talk to players, that's sort of the underlying theme. All right, I'm back. I'm going to get to work, and hopefully my turn will come again. It's just this era that we are in of where MLB baseball is at. You need 55, 60 players to play in a big league game for you at some point over the course of the year. That's just the way it works. So guys are going to keep getting chances from the Sounds to the Brewers, even if it's only a few days here and a few days there. It's going to keep happening. It's just the reality for every team. So there's no better motivation for a player coming back from the big leagues than to know I've got to stay ready. I have to find a way to just be ready, and that doesn't mean, spend a half hour every night looking at the big league club's box score. I think what these players down here are really good at is kind of compartmentalizing. Yeah, they're hoping to get that call back up, but if they obsess about that, they almost get themselves out of their game mentally down here versus just do your thing down there and the chance will come. And you can't will yourself to going 5 for 5. You've got to baseball is different in that regard than the other sports. Sometimes more effort works against you in an odd way in baseball, and you've got to have that patience. You've got to understand that a 1 for 5 is okay, and you can't always go 6 for 6 to work your way back to the big leagues.
Kelly, when he said the thing about the 55 people eventually at some point in the year on a roster, as good as the Braves have been, that statement is 100% true.
Mm-hmm.
Your witness.
That's amazing, man. I would have never thought that many players it takes throughout the season. I would have never thought that it would. In football, I'm used to football, but baseball, there's only 9 on the field, but you would never think that it would be that many guys.
Yeah, and it's so different with in-season transactions too in baseball. I mean, Kelly, football, you're keeping an eye on a practice squad of another team or somebody, but you're probably not going to overhaul your roster by the end. And maybe overhaul is too strong a word, but really change your roster significantly by the end of a football season the way you can in a baseball season. It's just the volume of games and having 165 players in 30 different big league organizations, minor league systems. That's how many there are. 165 times 30. That's how many players there are in the minor leagues across the country. And teams are always looking. Players are told all the time, you are not just playing for the organization you're in. You might catch the eye of one of the other 29. And it's a little bit easier, it feels like, in baseball to be found by another team and the next day you're playing for them compared to some of the other sports. So the roster churns a lot, and that means a lot of opportunity, and it can change very quickly for a guy. I remember we were here last year, and Lucas Ursig was a pitcher in the Sounds bullpen. He'd not yet gotten a big league chance with the Brewers. He was acquired while we were here by the A's, and instead of going to AAA for the A's, he went right to the big leagues. He's having a great year, and he's one of the reliable late game relievers for an Oakland team that's surprising some people this year. And that's how quickly it can happen. He went from AAA in one organization to big leagues of another in 24 hours. And here we are 12 months later, and the A's wouldn't think of letting Lucas Ursig get away. It can happen that quickly. It's a wild, wild industry in that way.
That stuff just intrigues me, Jeff, though, because I think I asked you this last year, but like if you're Rick Sweet, I mean, you have to juggle so many things, and you're trying to win. You're trying to collectively get these guys to buy in, and then you get a guy going here, you get a guy going there, and I don't understand how they do it. That just blows my mind with baseball because you want to win, but they're going to take your best player, and he's kind of the key to your success. As a manager in the minor leagues, how do you cope with that?
You've got to be a very unselfish individual to know, and you truly have to care about your players the way that Rick does, because he understands. You're right. He wants the Sounds to go 150-0, But the bigger picture is getting guys to the big leagues. And with that comes some winning. You can win games by developing players because that means they're doing a good job and you're winning games. But there are times in a AAA season where the manager realizes his team is likelier to lose a game than win a game, perhaps because of certain personnel matters, whether it's, hey, don't use this pitcher because he might be needed in the big leagues tomorrow. And it's like, hey, that's my closer. I want to go to him. Well, you can't because the big league picture is more important, or because you just lost your leadoff man to a big league call up. That's what happened when Tyler Black went up. You knew the Sounds lineup was going to take a hit. But how can you not love the fact that Tyler Black's going to the big leagues for his major league debut? And while it made the Sounds a less effective ball club, you know that that's what it's all about, is guys trying to get to the major leagues. There has to be a significant level of unselfishness to be a AAA manager, because it's not about you. It's about the player and getting the player to the big leagues and keeping that player up there for as long as possible. So it takes a lot of compartmentalizing to be a AAA manager. It's not an easy job. You're right, because there are times where your soul, who wants to win, realizes that gets brushed aside for a little bit, and that's not always easy to do.
So let me add, so your thinking has to change as a minor league manager. You can't, like, you want to win, like you just said, but winning has to be second fiddle to developing players. Is that correct?
Yes. Now, some organizations are better than others, and I put the Brewers in the better than others category, about realizing and trying to do both. You hear it in football. Oh, this guy's a winner. All he's ever done is win, high school up to college, and that's the appeal of the NFL team. And in addition to that player's talent, they draft him because he comes from a winning program. You know it, Kelly. That's part of it. There's an understanding for certain players who've won. There's a hunger there, if that's all that they're used to. So the Brewers want the Sounds and all their affiliates to win games, because it's not just because it's more fun to do the job when you're winning. There's value in that. And like I said before, if you're winning, that probably means your team has talent and they're getting the most out of that talent to win games, because the team on the other side is looking at everything the exact same way. They're just as competitive as you are. So the winning and the development sometimes are on separate tracks. Many times, though, they get to be on the same track and they benefit each other. And that's where the good organizations can capitalize on that, trying to truly develop winners, because if you're winning, you're probably doing other developmental things within your own individual game that are helping you and the team. And that's where everybody wins. I mean, and that is possible to do. But yes, there are some times where those two trains have to be on different tracks. And it's not easy sometimes at AAA to remind yourself of that.
So my last thing is this. So we've talked about players. What about coaches? I mean, the managers obviously are in the minor leagues, but they want to work their way up and they want to get to the big leagues. But it seems like when I'm watching and a big league manager gets fired, they don't bring guys up from within. They bring somebody else in from, like Tony La Russa, goes from Oakland to maybe, I forget where he went, St. Louis or somewhere. But how do you have to do that? Like, will Rick Sweet will he be a manager right off the bat if he goes further, or will he have to be like a hitting coach or another coach, a base coach to kind of, pay his dues to become a manager in the future?
It really depends. It really does. I mean, there are 30 big league managers right now. I'm sure there are a good handful. And the Brewers are one of these. Their manager is Pat Murphy. He was the bench coach for Craig Counsell for the last 8 years. Counsell now goes to the Cubs. Murphy promoted within by the Brewers. They could have gone outside the organization and found a guy who's already been a big league manager elsewhere. They didn't. They thought that there was benefit in promoting from within. So it really depends. A lot of big league coaches or managers did work in the minor leagues, either as a manager or a pitching coach or hitting coach or whatever. So a lot of times it does work for them, kind of like it does for a player. You get the big league opportunity first in some support staff type role rather than going right to being the manager. But other times, you do go right to being a manager at the big league level. But more times than not, if you're a AAA manager, your first big league opportunity is probably as a third base coach or first base coach or a hitting coach, rather than jumping right into that managerial role. That's usually how it works. But there's only 30 jobs, and so a big league team has a managerial opening. They're going to look at all factors. They might go outside the organization, depends on who's available. But I think the Brewers like the idea of continuity for their organization and for their players who'd already been there and knew Pat Murphy really well, and they felt like he'd earned that opportunity to be a big league manager rather than going to the outside, because then you're also overhauling your staff potentially. You bring in somebody new, just like an NFL head coach. Well, I want my offensive coordinator. I want to be the guy to pick that. There was more symmetry within the Brewers to move Pat Murphy up and keep a lot of that major league staff that had been there around him, and it didn't rock the boat as much, as great as Craig Counsell was, to lose him because a lot of other people stayed on that staff.
Do we get the obligatory ballpark shot?
Sure. Yeah. I think we talked about this last year.
Yeah, I think we did.
This is not, and this is no one cares except the broadcaster, but this is not the best place to call a game. There are a lot of reasons I love to come to Durham. The booth location is not one of them. I am down the first baseline.
Oh, good Lord.
They give us, we've got monitors on each side.
That's right. I remember.
So on one monitor, I'll only get a fixed camera from center field to home plate so that I can look at that and say the pitch was inside, because from the side angle, you can't tell. But it wasn't an ideal moment yesterday. The Sounds are down to their last strike in the 9th inning, and Brewer Hicklin is at the plate for the Sounds. Well, he hits a towering 451-foot home run to left field to put the Sounds on top. Well, from my angle, he hit it so high that with this roof up here, I lose sight of the ball.
Oh, wow.
I look at Brewer out of the other side of my peripheral vision, and he's kind of looking down at the ground and looking at the Sounds dugout. And I thought he was mad that he popped it up and he just missed it. No, he was celebrating to the dugout that he knew he had launched it. And so my home run call of this 2-strike top of the 9th down a run home run was not nearly drives one in the air, Sounds take it. It was like Hicklin, high fly ball to left. Like I had to,
maybe.
And no, it wasn't maybe, Jeff. It was long gone. It's just
right.
Again, no one cares except the broadcasters. But
so that one's not going to be on the reel to reel that you send the Angels someday.
Suffice it to say no. Suffice it to say no. And nobody cares but me. It's a first world, first person problem. But not the best sightline vantage point for reading balls off the bat. So
safe travels. Thank you for doing this as always.
All right, guys. Be well.
Jeff Him, Nashville Sounds play-by-play voice, joining us on the show. After the break, the WNBA may be heading to Nashville. And then again, it may not. Stay tuned.
As the trusted premier custom home builder in Middle Tennessee, Donnelly Timmons has over 20 years of experience in the industry. Whether you're looking to build your dream home or renovate your current home, their team will ensure that every client and every remodel is unique, luxurious, and completed on time within budget. Founders Dustin Timmons and Joey Donnelly have over 25 years of construction experience in the Nashville area. Together, they have completed projects in Forest Hills, Oak Hill, Green Hills, Franklin, and Brentwood. Dustin and Joey believe that communication is the most important aspect of all construction projects. Therefore, they personally manage each project themselves and are involved in job site activities on a daily basis. Their commitment to quality and integrity has earned them an outstanding reputation among their clients. Contact them to set an appointment for a free consultation or to view some of their completed projects. Give them a call at 615-456-7983 or log on to DonnellyTimmons.com.
It was the most horrible experience that any mother could ever go through. I knew that I needed to get help. My friend, she immediately said, "You need to call Bart Durham." And you guys were there within an hour. You guys are like family for us.
Yeah, sure is nice to connect with the people that you're doing your best to help.
As some of you may already know, we're making some changes in our programming. Simply put, beginning Monday, May the 21st, and yes, that date did have to change, we will go into a 4 to 6 p.m. time slot to do this podcast, but we will also simulcast it on radio on 95.9 FM. And for those of you who watch in the Rutherford, Williamson County area, on 107.9 as well. The purpose of this is very simple. I want to be able to take phone calls. While I've enjoyed the podcast format, I have greatly missed the fact that I'm not able to talk to you all. And I don't feel like I have quite the pulse that I used to for that reason. If you go back through my 30 years as a broadcaster, I always enjoyed taking phone calls. I'm looking forward to getting back to that. So mark the date, Monday, May the 21st, 4 to 6 p.m. And thanks for all the support.
Looking for more than just awards and trophies? Southern Trophy House is your one-stop solution. For over 60 years, their team has created lasting impressions with a personalized touch. From embroidery to screen-printed apparel to corporate awards, signs, and name badges, they have everything you need to keep your brand shining bright. With their knowledgeable customer service team, you can relax as they create, produce, pack, and ship merchandise and awards on time and on budget. That includes etched crystal awards, custom-cut acrylic name badges, embroidered Richardson ball caps, banners, screen-printed T-shirts, laser-engraved Yeti cups, and knives. Recognize your hard-working team from Southern Trophy House, where they do their best to help you recognize your best. Located at 2705 Nolensville Pike in Nashville, give them a holler, 615-256-7295. Visit southerntrophy.com. Southern Trophy House, for all your personalization and recognition needs.
Kelly, I'm not sure you were on with us the day we did this, but we had former MTSU and later Austin Peay quarterback Mike DiLello on the show. Very well spoken. He had been, I guess, invited to work out for the Miami Dolphins, and he talked to us about that experience, and in particular, their coach and wide receiver coach, Wes Welker. Well, Mike sent me a text earlier this morning, headed to Titans minicamp this weekend. So we congratulate him.
There you go, man. There's a lot of mini camps. All of them are going on this weekend. They'll be leaving tomorrow, and it's some anxious times for guys that have just got drafted or undrafted free agents or whoever going to a mini camp. And I tell young guys, man, it's just football. You played when you were little. You played in high school. You played in college. Now the pros, it's just playing football. It's a little different. But everybody puts this big onus on, hey, it's the NFL. Well, it's still football. And although you're getting paid for it, the guys are faster, they're bigger, but it's still football like when you started as a kid. So you can't worry about it too much. Just go out and show your stuff.
Yeah, I started as a kid and ended in 5th grade.
That's right. Because you had no ability.
It wasn't. It was lack of
guts. Absolutely. You didn't like getting hit. You would rather do the Luau Cinder sky hook when Kareem took it over. That's right.
Yeah. The contact we weren't in for. Okay, it got out late yesterday that the WNBA is considering Nashville as an expansion franchise. The truth of it is this rumor has been out in sports circles now for over 2 years. And I don't pretend to know why it's been out there that long. Are there things that make it harder for it to happen? But I'm going to give my opinion, and then I want these two to give their opinion. I think it'd be a home run here. I think this is an area that has always enjoyed women's basketball. UT Lady Vols, for a good while, Vanderbilt Lady Commodores. They made a Final Four on the NCAA level, and that's been under Jim Foster. It's been a long time ago, but it did happen. Rick Insell, a lot of success not only at MTSU, but all those state titles he won in Shelbyville. So, do I think it would work? Absolutely. Haven't got a doubt in the world. What about y'all?
Yeah, I mean, I think it would fit well. They had the Final Four. What year was that? They had
It's
it
been
at,
about
I forget.
5 years ago.
Yeah, I mean, that was awesome. Yeah, teams loved it. That was cool. And the WNBA, especially with Caitlin Clark getting into the league and Angel Reese and players, and who knows, maybe, I mean, if, say, for example, Nashville does get a team, I don't know when they would have it, but maybe a player like a Juju Watkins heads to Nashville, or a player of that caliber, for an example. And, that could really light up a city, especially, for young girls that do play basketball. So I think it would work really well. I mean, it's always been a big basketball state, especially for women's basketball. I mean, the two local programs have been really good.
I think it'd go over really, really good because I think the Middle Tennessee area, just like you said, George, and the state of Tennessee. I mean, the women's basketball. My daughter played at Riverdale, and she won 3 out of 4 state championships, and probably should have won a 4th one. And I can remember right before she went to high school, we had a girl, Alexa Middleton, who actually went up to Knoxville to play at UT, and then Crystal Dangerfield at Blackman. They changed the boys' game and made the boys' game the first game, and the women's game the second game,
wow.
which was kind of crazy. You never hear that in high school basketball. And there were more people that I remember going to that gymnasium. It was at Blackman, and that place was you couldn't get a seat to watch girls basketball. So I think it would go over really well. I don't, I know that the NBA has to pay some salaries. But yeah, I think it would go over really well because I think that people really love women's basketball, and it's easier. I've talked to coaches, man. It's easier to coach women than it is men because men do not want to listen to you, and women will. They're coachable. So I think it would go over great. I really do.
Okay, here's something that's not going over great.
The ride on the Hindenburg continues. It's Plaster Bet of the Day, brought to you by Bart Durham Injury Law. Give them a call, 615-242-9000, or log on to bartdurham.com. All right, results from last night. You did get a win.
Oh, my God. It's a miracle.
And then Billy's, hey, he's digging right now. Look at him. You got to win, George.
Yeah, I know.
Wow.
Yeah. When he comes back from Maryland, suddenly doesn't have a job.
No.
You never know how that'll work.
That's right. Billy has no worries with that. That's not going to happen.
I should have gone 2-0 last night. The Dallas Stars screwed me. They were up 3-0 and got beat.
I didn't know they were up 3. I knew they were up 2-0. I didn't know they got it up to 3.
Not pleased. Okay, let's go where we're going tonight. Yes, I'm not about to go against Madison Square Garden and the chant. You want to try to play that one more time?
Well, I did realize people couldn't hear it, so I need
to
figure
that's
that
an
out.
issue.
That's sort of needed.
Yeah, kind of one of the fundamentals.
Yep.
Okay. Why do I think the Knicks? There's just something about them. Think about it. No Julius Randle. Got lost early in the season. I would argue they're better off. Julius Randle's a ball hog. This is a team that seems to have gelled and rallied behind Jalen Brunson. I don't know what it is. The kid never misses when it matters. When it matters, Dante DiVincenzo doesn't miss. In the clutch at home, they are clutch. They're going to find a way to go up 2-0, and hopefully they're going to find a way to cover a -5. We're taking the Knicks. Or as Marv Albert used to say, Patrick Ewing and the Knicks. Thank you. Okay. And then Edmonton on the road. Simply way more firepower than Vancouver. Now, how would this have worked for the Preds? Boy, I don't know, because they've got two of the best players in hockey, Edmonton does. Connor McDavid, Leon Draisaitl. I think they will simply outscore in a much anticipated Canadian series that's getting a lot of attention up there. I say Edmonton Oilers tonight. I hope.
That could get testy.
Thank you. I would say we're done.
Nice.
Many out there would say,
Billy, you got to catch a flight here later on, don't you?
Got to catch a flight. Yeah, I'll be doing the show from Maryland tomorrow, so hopefully everything works out well.
Better you on that airplane than me.
Yeah,
Safe travels, Hoss.
If I make it, if I make it up there, we'll see.
This
Lord
is where
willing, you'll make it.
This is where the white knuckles would come out, where I'd be checking the radar every 5 minutes.
Say some prayers.
Oh,
yeah, big time. We will do it. We'll be back with you tomorrow on the show. Danny Evans will join us. We'll get into the latest on what Rob Manfred's pronouncement earlier in the week means for Nashville. What does it mean for the rest of the possibilities? So please stick around. Don't forget, in a little more than a week, we'll be simulcasting on 95.9 on the FM dial, and we're looking forward to it, and we're looking to take your phone calls.